Welcome back to the Shade Tree Garage. And today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to share some thoughts on shop design. Now, a lot of us have converted garage space, or you've got a two-car attached garage. We're using that to do our DIY projects. And that works. The only problem I have with that is every attached garage I've ever had, I couldn't get a car in. Hopefully you can, because it's used for storage a lot of times, that attached garage just isn't very useful for holding a car. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about shop design in the event that you are able to build an accessory shop on your property, and you get to design it the way you want. Now, here's some thoughts that I've run into, and I kind of jotted some things down. This doesn't mean that I am not an authority on designing a shop and building it. I'm just going to share my experience. There are a couple of rules that I think are universal. Rule one is you can't build a shop too big. You can never make it too large. All right. And the flip side of that is any shop you build will wind up being too small eventually, or you'll find yourself wishing you'd gone on and built it, 20 feet longer, taller, wider, or so on and so forth. Now, the first shop that I built was in the mid 90s. My wife and I, we had a house in town, and it was 20 by 24. It was a small shop, very affordable. Actually, it was a pole barn construction, and very affordable, and it was built with a concrete floor. It had one 16-foot wide overhead door and one regular standard size entry door, and that was it. I was trying not to add windows or any other openings to it for fear of creating entryway for ne'er-do-wells who wanted to rifle through my tools and stuff and maybe steal stuff. All right, that was my line of thought at the time. And the building looked great. I didn't fully get moved in, but then the summer hit. Well, without that, and I found out the first problem was the building had no ventilation. There was no way to get air going through the building, no other openings, and it didn't. It just sat there. And so in the bright sunshine, starting in the spring, it became an oven, and it was hotter than blazes in that garage. So really, the garage was too hot to work in most of any of the warm months, really. And I didn't have a chance to solve that problem because my job took me out of the county. And the rule with my company at that time was that you had to live in the county where you worked. So we moved to the county across the border from us, and we rented our house, but we kept the garage separate, and it was our own, and we used it for storage. And that worked out well because we didn't have to rent a storage unit to store anything. So that worked out very well. All right, now 20 years later, I'm here where we are now, and I decided to start 2 or 3 years ago wanted to build my building. Now, if you live in town, one of the first things you need to think about is zoning and the regulations that are attached to zoning, depending on the neighborhood you're in. If you live in town, the zoning ordinances will have specifications you have to meet as far as how close you can get to the side lines, property lines, or the back, or even the front. If you have a lot and there's no house on it, you have to follow those guidelines. You'll also have to submit to zoning a plat of your property, showing the approximate location of the building you wish to build. And you need to know how far away it is from, like, the property line, how far away it is from your house or other structures on your property. And they'll want to know all that. Now, you also have to remember, and of course, and this may not apply to older subdivisions, but many of them have underground utilities. You may get natural gas, water, your electric may be underground, electric and other utilities. You cannot build over utility right away. You just can't. So you'll have to have the utilities located if they're underground in your neighborhood before you'll be allowed to place a building there. They may have construction standards for the building that they want. For example, when I mentioned I wanted to build a shop, the building inspector said that I would have to have 4-foot footers all the way around the perimeter of the building. And he insisted on that until I brought him the plans for my metal building, and that it would not be a heavy load. It would not be a heavy enough load to require the strength of 4-foot footers around the perimeter to hold the building. This is a metal building, and it bolts to the slab, anchored to the slab. Getting a building permit, like I said, they will probably need to see a diagram of the approximate location, and you need to see if they have other requirements that you'll have to meet. This may affect the size or the location where you can place your building. Now, if you have zoning, chances are they will require an inspection of that building. They may require an inspection of the slab, or if you have to get a footer, if you're doing a stick-built garage. You know, if you're doing a pole barn, no. If you're using a metal building like mine, no. They may want to see the slab once it's done, and then they will once your building is complete, they will inspect it and rate it for occupancy. Now, how do you design your building? What do you know what you want? Well, let me point you in a direction for some design tools that were fabulous. Allen's Factory Outlet is actually a reseller of metal buildings. They have design tools on their website that are out of this world, and I can't emphasize how great they are. You can design the building and see it before your eyes as it comes together, and you get to change all the variables: the length, the width, the height, the type of roof, the colors, the location of doors, windows, overhead doors. It's a wonderful tool, and I spent a lot of time designing my shop. Now, using that tool, and then I ordered it from them. They had a good price on the package, and the package includes installation. I'm not promoting Allen's in any way. This is just my experience with them. Now, when you're designing your garage, your shop, when you're using the design tools, one of the nice things about it is as you design it and you select options, like if you want 2 overhead doors instead of 1, or 2 windows instead of 3, or whatever, the tool will adjust the price. If you add options, it will add those into the overall price. If you take options away, it'll lower the price. And so that's a great tool because you can actually select the options that you think you really need. Now, and then you can see what that's going to cost. Now, I designed my building at, the space I wanted for my shop was between our barn and the house. There was about 60 feet between the end of, our barn is actually an 40 by 100 equipment shed that's got some horse stalls in one end of it. We use it to park our vehicles, our tractor, utility vehicle and stuff in there. So I had sufficient room to put I wanted my shop close to the house, not against the house. I wanted to leave, so I designed it so I could leave about 20 feet space between the shop and the house. Sometimes we pull our vehicles up the driveway, which is in front of me, and then we could circle around the shop if needed. And that's worked out very well. In fact, I've considered creating an actual driveway that goes around the shop and comes out on the driveway behind me. Our driveway is a big loop, and that's part of it behind me. Now, I could have made the shop 10 or 20 feet longer by going longer this way and 10, another 10 feet this way. But I decided to stick at 26 by 41 feet. And the reason I stuck with those dimensions is there are certain lengths, heights, widths that trigger a significant increase in price. It's like you go from here and the price, you go up a little bit and the price goes up significantly. And so I was working to keep the price as close to $15,000 as I could. And so that meant that, there were certain options I was going to get, one way or the other. For example, I have 10-foot walls in this building. And the reason is because I was anticipating the possibility of having a 2-post lift in here. With an 8-foot wall, I wasn't real sure I would have enough headroom to raise a vehicle sufficiently. And so there was an upcharge on that, of course. The other things were I have 2 overhead doors on this end facing our driveway where we park, and I have 1 overhead door behind me. Now, this garage is facing east, and this faces west. And most of our, now we have a lot of wind up here. Most of our breezes come out of the west, and so I learned a lesson from my first pole barn I built was to make sure you have ventilation. So this shop is blessed with natural wind that comes from the west through the shop. Also, I opted for windows. I've got 2 windows facing the house to my left, your right, and 1 on this side. Now this one faces, you look out this window and you're looking at the side of the barn. It's about 4 or 5 feet away. But again, that window isn't there for the view. It's there for potential cross breeze. I can open that window and open the other 2 and, get some ventilation. So I have no shortage of ventilation and a good cross breeze through here. And it really makes a huge difference. Now, again, this building is metal, and in the hot summer sun, it gets hot in here. The breeze makes a big difference. And of course, I have a large floor fan over on the other side of my Plymouth, and that helps a lot too. But you can actually work in here all summer long. Sometimes you have to have the fan on, sometimes you don't. The fan I keep on a lot, just simply to help keep the air flowing. All right, so now all of these options, the 3 overhead doors, the 3 windows, the 10-foot walls, all of those add to the base price of the 26 by 41 building. Now another option I chose was for the rugged construction. There's an option to have 150 mile per hour certified design. I don't know, it was $200 or $400, something like that. And since I know we have a lot of wind and windstorms here, I mean, it's been a while, but we've lost a good portion of our roof in a huge windstorm when we first moved here. I wanted the strongest building I could get, and so I've had no problems with this construction. Though I have had, they use vertical 90-degree strips to dress out the ends of each wall, each corner on the exterior. Looks real nice. Looks real nice. However, the winds we've had have stripped the 2 on the west end off, just because the wind blows so hard, and it was actually able to blow them off and they were screwed to the building just like everything else. Now let's talk about concrete. If you haven't purchased concrete lately, it's expensive, and there's no way around it. It's expensive. And I had a company come out and do my slab for my 20, 24 by 26 by 41 building. And they did it with rebar, reinforcement. They did everything. Now, I originally told them I wanted footers all the way around the perimeter. And so then they asked me, they said, well, what kind of building is it? I said, well, it's a metal building. I had by that time, I had the plans. And they said, you don't need 4-foot footers on this thing. And I said, well, that's what the inspector said. Well, he didn't see the plans first. So after I showed him to him, he's like, yeah, no problem. No problem. Now for the finish of the concrete, I saved a little money, and sometimes I wish I hadn't. Instead of a nice, smooth finish, I got a broom finish, brush finish. And that gives you excellent traction if the floor is wet. And most of the time I don't regret it, but if you're trying to move something on the floor, the texture gives it there's a little more friction you have to overcome. But I've never slipped on the floor just because it was wet. So that's worth something. Now, insulation, if you look around, you can see behind me, there is no insulation on this building. I just didn't spring for that. There's lots of videos on YouTube about how you can insulate a metal building. I think that the design, the type I would go with probably would be like the 3-inch foam boards, and I would cut those and put those between each of the upright supports. I just haven't done it. But conceivably, that would reduce the heat in the summertime by reflecting the radiant heat back into the roof. I just haven't done it. The most expensive form of insulation is spray-on foam. It has excellent R value, but I don't particularly like the look of it, and it's expensive, very expensive. Most websites will tell you don't use like fiberglass insulation like you use in an attic. The foam boards that have some sort of aluminized coating on one side or foil, that's the best option from what I've read. I may be wrong. Lighting. Now let me move this. Now for lighting, I decided on LED lighting, of course. Initially, I was thinking of linking 4-foot, 3 4-foot lights on each joist, each roof. I don't know if that's the right term, but there's a horizontal support that goes between each rafter. And I was going to mount 3 4-foot LED light strips on probably every other one. And I have a box of 4-foot LED light strips for that. But then I thought, well, stringing the lights from one, the power from one strip 4 feet to the next one or 8 feet, it was going to be kind of a wiring nightmare. And so I realized that I could add 4 8-foot lighting strips and run them lengthwise. And I have 3 rows of those lights, LED lights, and it lights the shop very, very well, very well. And I'm tickled to death with it. And thanks to my son, we got them up in no time. Those light strips you can get have metal springy clips, and you mount the clip up, uh, and and then you snap the light fixture in it. Now these fixtures are designed. There are not spacers, but connectors, and you can physically mount the two ends together, and you can have four of them linked in one strip, and that worked great. And it's worked great the whole time. The and then I have at the front of the garage, I have I put in a four banger outlet, power outlet, that's switched over on the sidewall, and that uh, so I can turn the lights off and on. The other outlets, of course, the wall outlets are wired, so they're on all the time, unless I hit the main breaker. But these LED lights work great. Now I have all these 4-foot lights, and my thinking is that I'm going to mount them on the wall, especially in this area here where I have my Plymouth, because I'll be doing body work on the sides, and I could always use a little extra light uh, on the sides. And of course, you'll see paint booths that always have lights mounted on the side. So I want as much light as I can get on the sides while I'm working on it. Now they make round LED fixtures that put out a lot of light, and you could probably light this thing with light this garage just about as well with four or six of those, strategically placed. But I'm happy with. I designed the strips to be on the edges and in the middle so that they give maximum broadcast of the light. All right, so the design parameters I had to keep within was I couldn't get too wide and I couldn't get too long. I wanted this to be a good fit with the barn next door, and not tremendously longer. Um, but it's parallel to the end of the barn, and it's fine. It doesn't look out of place. Let's put it that way. It looks newer. The old tin on the old barn is kind of rusty by now, but it's a good fit for where we needed it. And again, you can go through and you can use that at Allen's factory website to adjust your design parameters. You can make it more expensive or less expensive. And you have so many options to choose from. It's incredible. Even if you don't want to build a garage, you can build a carport, and you can. How many of us have RVs? Whether you can actually design your carport tall enough to park your RV under, which seems to be pretty popular in these parts. Their packages are all built, include the installation. Now, a word about installation. The crew that brought my building and everything to it was self-contained. There were four men. There was you could tell the foreman, the guy in charge, and three, and they arrived before noon on one day, and they had it up by early afternoon the next day. Of course, they're counting on a concrete slab that's ready to go, and did they go. They had they worked till dark that first day and made tremendous progress. All they had to finish was some of the outside sheeting and hang the doors, and they were done. I can't praise those guys enough. Um, but anyway, they have, and that's all these crews do is work for this company that sells the buildings, and they bring the materials, and it looked like they had enough for at least 2 buildings on the trailer they pulling behind their heavy duty pickup truck. Anyway, other websites may have similar design tools, so look around. You may want a pole barn. A pole barn may be cheaper in your neck of the woods. You can actually, And one of the things about a pole barn is, well, in any building you want, you need to keep it. The lot needs to be fairly level. You don't want to have to have a lot of rock brought in and a lot of uh, excavator work to level the lot. You may have to, but if you can avoid it, you can save yourself some money. I was very fortunate since this actually where my shop is now was actually formerly part of the barn. It was fairly level, and it only required a minimum of excavation before they poured the footer or before they poured the slab. All right. Well, if you have a shop to work in, God bless you. If you for years I worked, working in the barn wasn't safe. I didn't never like the idea of jacking up a vehicle on dirt and rock, and I never felt safe. However, we have a concrete pad that was actually supposed to be a half court, basketball court. The goal has been long gone. So I could pull a vehicle there, and that's where I worked on. I did brake jobs, oil changes, and everything. I really like having a garage now, and so take time, even if you're not ready to pull the trigger today on building your own shop. I would recommend going to Allen's or any other uh, retailer that sells the metal buildings and use their design tools and figure out what you want. And if you get serious about it first, you better contact your planning and zoning. If you live in an area without zoning, say out in the county, uh, that will allow you to move forward without a lot of rules you have to worry about. Do be aware of where your underground utilities are if you have them. You don't want to build on top of those. All right. Well, those are my thoughts about building a building. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And in fact, I regret I didn't do it 10 years earlier. All right. Well, that's it from the Shade Tree Garage. I see the sun going down behind me. I hope you're having a great Labor Day weekend, and we will see you again with another update from the Shade Tree Garage.